roundtable tonight with two amazing ladies that you both know, but for those who don't know these amazing ladies, Danielle Henderson, Super Dani, soul therapist, and she has an incredible YouTube channel where she has interviewed very interesting people. And Andrea Foulkes, you are based in UK. We just discovered we are actually on the same ley line at the moment. We're living on the same ley line. You in England and me in Ireland. You do soul regression, past life regression, but not only you are doing so many things. The subject of today is Trojan horses and infiltration. So we gathered because we had different perspectives, different stories, different experience on the matter. What is a Trojan horse? Because maybe not all of you know exactly, you hear this a lot. What is it? This goes back to Greek mythology, when there was the attack of the city of Troy. And the city of Troy was really surrounded by very thick and strong walls. Nobody could enter, nobody could attack, nobody could take this city at all. It was amazingly guarded. Then the Greek army who wanted to attack Troy had an idea. They said, okay, we can't get in by force. We can't. And they know we are around the walls. They see us. How are you going to get in? Let us try to gain their trust. So they asked to talk to the king, and the king went outside of the walls, and they say to the king, okay, we surrender to you, and we are leaving because we see that there's no point. So we are offering to you in exchange a gift. We'll bring it tonight. And the king said, yeah, great. At nighttime, the Greek army offered the peace gift, which was a huge statue they had made up of wood in the shape of a horse, symbol of victory or whatever, blah, blah. And inside this horse was hidden the Greek army. And once inside the town, they got out and they attacked, and it was too late, and they made a real mess of it. So that's what a Trojan horse is, just infiltrating a safe place by ruse and cunning. So we are going to talk about this tonight. And Andrea, yes, I wanted to let you speak first, and first explain all that you do and how amazing is your work. So let's go.
Thank you, Elena and Dani. It's so lovely to see both of you. Yeah, I'm in Cornwall at the moment, but I'm mainly in Glastonbury, but it's the same ley line, like Elena was saying, we're on the same energy line. And I find when I drive along this ley line from Cornwall to Glastonbury a lot back into, it's like energizing. I process stuff. I feel like things come up, even if I go as far as it goes through London. So that's powerful. So for 20 years, I've done past life regression, inner child healing, ancestral timeline healing, spirit releasement, and I speak light language as well. So I've spoken light language publicly since 2011 as well. So that's what I do. And I kind of weave them all in together at the same time. So sometimes I see people in person for regression, and sort of back in 2004 to 2007, I was regressing people on TV in the UK on a show called This Morning, and then another show called Have I Been Here Before? But they even let me show entities twice, which was amazing, to put that across to the masses. And then they said, no, you can't show that anymore. But in private practice, that's what I do. And then I work on Skype with people, going into the emotional Akashic records and weaving between all that in the emotional Akashic records. Because I think, you know, the key for me in everything is the emotions, and going into everything linked to the emotional trauma. And I think in what you do, like, and and I connect with beings, but not maybe on the same level as you do. And then I see what you might call Trojan horses. I would see them as interdimensional beings that maybe haven't even had a physical body, that have attached to people, and the person is unaware that they are not a benevolent being, they're not working for that person's soul's highest purpose. And then there are other entities attached which are no less malevolent for them, but they have had a physical body and they have had a physical incarnation. But I've noticed that over the last few years it's changed a little bit. So that's like a little introduction.
Yeah, that's very interesting, very interesting. Dani, what is your perspective on what Andrea just shared with us?
It's incredibly interesting to me how very similar Andrea and I, the work that we do, the work that we've always done. And it's funny because I've known this beautiful blonde bombshell here as a British leader. She's been in leadership on her own in the trenches. I mean, even last year, she stood in a village town and stood on a podium and just rah, you know, just doing her thing. And she's definitely for those of you who Andrea Foulkes is new, there is actually a couple of videos on my channel, Dani Spiritual Therapist, where she and I come together and share information. But it's just so exciting to be jumping on your channel, Elena Danaan. Thank you so much. Yeah. Also, you know, Andrea and I were on QVC television at the same time as well. Back,
I think we
back.
were just, do you know what people have said to me about, I'm sure most people know what QVC was back in the day, but I've had people since, you know, like it shows you how everything's lined up. So, you know, I had people now subsequently years later, you know, because it was, well, I stopped working on there. Well, I didn't, I kind of kept going back a bit, doing more spiritual stuff on there, selling spiritual things like meditations and crystals and things. But back in the day, we weren't. But I've had people say to me, and I don't know if you've had the same, people said to me, I knew you weren't there doing what you looked like you were doing. I knew you were just there sort of like channeling some frequency or something. So people know, you know, they can recognize what you're doing, even though you appear to be doing something else. And I think that's also an interesting thing for people, which I think is maybe another discussion, that not everybody has to do, quote, quote, what looks like a spiritual job or a therapist job. In the job that they're doing that thing. They don't have to go and be a therapist as such, or be a spiritual teacher or whatever they're doing, they're helping people. And it's all about, you know, us emitting this vibration and frequency to help people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing. And you're right, you know, it's about planting your light, planting your vibration, just being there, being in situ wherever you are, and just like radiating love for everybody around you, even though there are those that don't want to know what you have to say there. It's too difficult for some people to even go into, you know, the idea of a Trojan horse. And what do you mean? Or, you know, who are you? I know you to be spiritual. You're not welcome here. And so we don't need to really be worried about any kind of authority. For those of us that are truly coming from love, we just plant our light and radiate. But as it comes to Trojan horses, what I've noticed really over the last 2 years, when there's been way more attention on our on and off planet beloveds, people coming forward with their stories, and oh my God, it's so exciting, because I keep saying to people, start your own channels, tell your own stories. Just if one person sees you, great. But those that are looking to create massive followers, and those times aren't of the time now. And what we've been seeing is certain people in the public eye, whether they're in politics, whether they're in, you know, education, whether they're in science in particular, whether they're just kind of trying to be famous for something or other, they're getting to a certain level and they're gathering and garnering this kind of idolatrous kind of following. And then all of a sudden people are like really aligned to their energy. They're like, oh my God, I love you. And, you know, we're so programmed, we can't help it. It's how we were programmed, and we fall in love, and it's called transference. And we think we love them. We don't love them. We just resonate. And then all of a sudden, something opens inside of that person and they turn a different corner, and they're hoping to take the followers with them to another agenda, another line of thinking, another subject, and these people may not even be aware that they're being used, that they're muppets and puppets, and and that goes for the three of us in the screen. We can't not address something like this and not be open to the possibility that we've been programmed in. And here we are going on about Trojan horses and pointing this. Do you know what I'm saying though?
Yeah.
To me, that is full on broadcast, laying yourself out there, being open to the possibility that we're all AI hacked, we're all programmed, we're all dollies. Like seriously, when we can come to the light and be vulnerable like this and discuss these matters that are affecting so much of humanity, I think then it lends itself to other people giving that inner questioning, like, is there a Trojan horse in me? Do I have an agenda around something? Why am I trying to be in a position? Why am I trying to win that person? Why am I? Like, why are we doing the things we're doing right now? So the Trojan horse analogy that exists everywhere is becoming more apparent. It's definitely a very hot subject today. And I'm so glad that the three of us are all addressing it in our own ways. And for me, one of the things I would like to say to all of the beautiful people that see this broadcast, you won't see it on my channel for a bit, because the people that put themselves in charge of my planet, your planet, our planet, have prevented me from broadcasting on boob tube. Boo! So my message to those guys is, and welcoming everybody on the entire planet and off planet, this year, for me in particular, well, it's always been that way, but I completely rebuke authority. Authority, I rebuke you. Demon be gone. My universal statement is, I lead myself. I own myself. And woe betide any friggin' Trojan horse inside of me, it's going to get its ass kicked. It's going underground. It's not going to come out and disrupt. And if anyone sees me misbehaving, bit too cocky, bit too this, bit too that, you're allowed to call me out and I will answer to that. However, if you're like the horrible old bag, in particular the other day, when I was on a broadcast with Alex Collier, Dr. Michael Saller, Elena Danaan, and we are discussing universal subjects of utter importance. And when one old bag in particular wrote, because it's very easy to attack, isn't it? Well, let's attack because we're sitting behind the keyboard, and never mind the people on screen who've sacrificed so much to be there and risked so much to be there. But this horrible old bag said, Dani, I live in the jungle. It is flipping hot. Okay, it is hot all the time, right? And this woman said, are you trying to pull a man? Like, put some clothes on. So many people said nasty things. And I'm like, really? Really? Because all you do is show who you are. As a mean person, my message to every single person without exception that wrote nasty, cruel, mean comments on that, and all broadcasts to anyone that puts themselves out there, is this: I'm going to tell your mum and dad, and I'm going to tell your nan. There you go.
I quite like it when they attack us in a way, because we get to look at, it's quite a gift, I think, because we get to look at ourselves and go, have I been triggered by it? Am I bothered by it? And I think, years ago, perhaps I would be what people said, but then I just get strong, you get stronger and stronger and stronger. And the other thing that you notice, whenever it's 3 days before a full moon or 3 days after, all the people who are emotionally triggered by, the moon and the energy, they come out and, 1 minute they love you and within 10 messages they hate you, and, they're all over the place and they're not grounded. And, in our hearts, we have to have compassion for them. And I think it's a test for us to just kind of stay in our center and observe if we get triggered by them and let it go, because they're testing us. They're coming in to just test you, and you kind of float along and rise above it eventually.
I think their energy is better used by reflecting back, because when they make a comment, they just look like an idiot. They look like an untrained, unevolved Neanderthal, you know, that can do nothing more than attack, because they're so programmed, old program, from seeing people on television who are famous or celebrity, and then they were programmed, attack, attack, attack. If someone puts themselves out there, that means they can be attacked. No, I disagree. It means that you're ignorant, and the ignorance shows. And yeah, compassion for the ignorant. Absolutely. We've all got something in us ignorant. I'm still growing. I'm growing every day. But me personally, I'm saying knock that shit off. Enough now. Enough of that shit. Okay? It's not nice. Stop it. There we are.
Yeah, and there are teachers. They teach us, and it's well, I like when I like it when people are these mean and troll people just comment. Then I spot, I know who they are, and I know who I need to block. Anyway, talking about the Trojan horse, you were, as Dani, you were mentioning the vulnerability. How does a Trojan horse get in? How can you do to not, well, to protect yourself from that? Well, you know, a Trojan horse has no power. It's not something dangerous as long as you don't open the door. Okay. And what is opening the door? It's our weaknesses that they spot and they wait for it. And most of the time, it is ego. Ego. People who are wanting popularity or love, people in lack of love, or in, you know, and they know that. So that's, as long as you don't open your door, you know, you are safe. Be very careful what they try to do. And I think it's same on an entity level. Andrea, I'm sure you have so much to say about it, as well on an entity level, etheric level, and as well on a physical, real level, with people, because it's all about trust, gaining trust. So they are going to seduce and bring truth. What they always do is to bring truth first. They are going to bring data that can be verifiable. You know, if it's an entity, oh, I'm your grandfather, and and they can read your mind, so they pretend being your grandfather, and they'll say things that only you know, and so it will be a proof for them, but for you. But in fact, they just read your mind. But then also, all the people on social medias, I am thinking about some YouTube channels, which I'm not going to name, especially one that started 4 years ago, bringing, for instance, scientific truth that everybody could verify, and things that gain confidence, and everybody, and they grew an audience, and they grew and they grew and they grew until it was time, and at the right moment, all these people switched on, the programming switched on at the same time, in the same months. And suddenly it was about dripping lies, slowly, you know, that you don't realize. It's the parable of the frog in the hot water, you know, that's changed temperature slowly, and at the end people believe all the lies and really worship them. That's how it works. And well, also there's the SSP programs. That's something else. But Andrea, what do you have to say about the entities gaining your trust? How does an entity get into you? How do they get you?
Well, most of the time when I'm regressing people and then I see the entity, you know, I ask questions, but even if you knew what I would call classic spirit releasement, because I was doing this back in the day on TV. I didn't want them to catch me out. You know, I wanted these people's past lives and their experiences to be bona fide and real. And then on the odd ones where they weren't, I would have liked to have done spirit releasement on TV, but they wouldn't let that stuff. But in private practice, I was focusing on it, because when you take people back to the day the entity's attached, you can get rid of some of them if they're like not attached too deeply, but the really deep ones that are attached, you've got to take the people back to the day they attached. Now, if it was in this lifetime, they could have attached, you know, last week, before then, a lot of the time. So let's say a lot of the time they attach when you're emotionally vulnerable. So it could be a car accident, it could be an operation. A lot of the time you'd see with women who had endometriosis, entities would have attached when they had an operation, and then that gave them endometriosis. So there's lots of things like that. Or they would attach because they were it's really funny, it sounds quite funny, but there are good nature spirits and malevolent nature spirits, and some of the more malevolent nature spirits, the negative nature spirits would attach when they were either an only child or a lonely child or a jealous child, like a sibling came in. So a sibling would be born, and then that's when the lower vibrational and sort of like earthbound spirit entities would attach sometimes, and the nature ones are quite naughty. They're not as bad as really nasty entities, but they would kind of create like chaos in this person's life. So they'd be like they're spinning, like they'd have lots of projects on the go, but they never achieve anything. They never anchor anything in. It just gets spun around all the time. And then when you would address them, I don't want to say what this emotion is, because then people will be, you know, like thinking, oh, she's programming us with that. But there is time and time again when you would regress people who had these lower astral realm nature spirits attached, they would do exactly the same emotional response time and time again. The same people would do that. But then you've got to establish whether some of the entities attached have had a physical body, been in incarnation here, which they have, and their soul is fragmented off. So it might not be the whole of their soul is attached to my client. It might have fragmented off to other people as well. Or they sometimes admit they go between different people in families, and they might be creating chaos in that family as well, and between all those people. Or sometimes if they're a child attached, they'd be stopping that person from creating friendships. They'd say, well, they've got me, they don't need anybody else, they've got me, I'm their special friend. I'm like, yeah, but you're their special friend inside of them, so it's not really a proper friendship, and you're blocking them from having friendships. Or they might be in love with them. So say they're a being that's been attached from a past life and knew this person in a past life and was in love with them in a past life. They might be blocking them from relationships, saying, well, they don't need anyone else, they've got me, they've got me. So you've got to address that, and then you have to resolve it with the entity. And sometimes they can be really nasty. They'd be like, I don't want to speak to you. And you kind of push the client into the background energetically, and then the entity comes forward and speaks either verbally through them, so their voice and mannerisms might change, or they send the answers to the client's head and the client just says what they hear in their head. But of course, I'm only showing them what is. I always address the fact that I don't have any power to make them go. I can just show them what is. I can help them to go if they decide to go, but I need the client to agree to let them go. But also, it's much better if the client resolves the trauma from the emotional day they attached. If we clear that, then they'll really go once and for all, and you'll heal that energy. Like, imagine they're like a tea bag with holes in, so you'll heal that energy so nothing else will come back in on that emotion. Because if you don't heal it, that emotional hole in their energy feels still there, so something else could come in on the same emotion. And then you've got the other beings which have never had a physical body, which are off-world beings. Some of them are, they're sometimes they get really sad, like I've been left here and abandoned, and they sent me here and I was meant to do this or that, and now I've been left here all on my own. And then you turn them to the light. If they're dark beings, they know there's a spark of light, that they could either join the light or they could return to where they've come from. Or you ask the other beings to take them back to where they've come from. And sometimes you ask them and say, if they're off-world beings that don't have a physical body, have you attached to any other humans? And they go, oh yes. And you ask them, and sometimes they say thousands, or sometimes they say millions. And you say, well, do you have permission to do this, or have you just done it? And they'll say, oh, we just did it. I said, well, I don't really think you have authority to do this. And then they'll telepathically talk to all the other, lower vibrational beings that they've implanted into humans, and pull them all off at the same time.
Yeah, that's a real problem, because regarding to the QAHT, practice, that is I'm not skilled in this. It's not my thing, but I know people who do that. And these practitioners who are really even good and genuine have been confronted to this. So a client arrives, and this person is mostly women, with an attachment, but nobody knows. The practitioner doesn't know this person has an attachment. The person doesn't know they have an attachment. So they come and they're going to have a regression. And then what is going to come out? The entity speaking and implanted false memories. Because I work with ETs, I have sometimes people who ask me, and I say, no, that's not possible. It's fake. And I've had email, or sometimes I receive email, people doing a regression with different practitioners even, and they are Thorhan's family, or or ETs I know, they are their wives. It's always women or sisters, and I'm always open mind, and okay, I'm gonna ask. Oh, sorry, no, that's fake. And that's not possible. The person is so convinced. I had a friend, she was convinced she was, she was the Thorhan as a best friend, commander, and she thought she was his wife, and she was so convinced. She has implanted memories. She had an attachment. She had an entity attached that had been implanted during programming, during an abduction by malevolent ETs, but she didn't know about that, and she believed it. And this person is really in suffering, And the practitioner just, what the practitioners, what can they do? When the person comes with a Trojan horse entity, and these implanted memories are so vivid that the person is convinced and is going to go like a bullet on a mission to achieve what she thinks is right, but in fact is going to cause a tremendous lot of chaos, So it seems so difficult for the practitioners to how do you deal with that? I mean, that's difficult, isn't it?
I think so. And I think a lot, often I get practitioners because I think the thing is, it goes back to, how I ended up doing this. I never wanted to do this. I didn't think, oh, I'm going to train and be a therapist. It didn't happen like that. And I think the problem is, when I started doing this 20 years ago, people didn't think I want to be a therapist. You didn't go along that path. That wasn't what happened. But now people think, right, I'm going to train and do this, and then I'm going to make a living out of this. And I think that's the wrong vibration. So maybe that's what draws the stuff in. And when I ask a lot of people who are then getting, they've maybe only been doing this 3 or 4 years as a therapist, like they've trained, they've gone and got their certificate and everything, but now they're like feeling like hell, they're like, I'm exhausted, I'm drained, I'm like, ooh. And I'm like, yeah, but you trained to do this, but in doing this, you never did any inner journey work on yourself. So you're like doing all this work on all these other people, but you're never ever doing the work on yourself. And if you haven't got your vibration up to a certain level before you even started this, you're going to get taken down, like down. And they don't realize that. They don't realize you've got to be constantly coming into integrity with yourself, constantly inquiring in yourself, you know, is there anything attached to me? Constantly observing your own level of integrity, constantly looking at your own motivation for why what you're doing. And then if you're working with people, you're going to be looking at, you know, who are these beings? And over time, you know, I realized that even if you look back at some of the past lives I did on TV, I could now tell you they were not those people's past lives. They were entities' past lives
Yes.
attached, but that was, you know, years ago. But I didn't realize that in the beginning. But one of the giveaway things is if you're genuinely in a past life, you might have emotion, but your voice isn't going to change. If your voice changes and your mannerisms and your face change, that's an entity, that is not your past life. And then what I've realized is a lot of people doing regression with people can drag up a past life. It's pretty easy to drag up a past life, but to clear it, you've got to take emotionally everything that person's told you about their lifetime in this lifetime and resolve that into the past life, and then clear it so that you will potentially heal their emotional body. And if you heal their emotional body, their physical body will heal as well.
So I feel, if I understand, no entity attached globally and generally, no entity attached during a QAHT session, no entity attached, the person speaks normally, whatever past life she just brings on. Entity attached, the voice and the demeanor changes, and it's like, sounds like channeling, kind of. Is that it? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
But also the other thing is sometimes people are blocked. Well, yeah, so sometimes they'll say, oh, I've done regression before, but I want to come to you because, you know, I think you're probably good at this, and I've tried it before and I was blocked and I couldn't go inside myself. Most of the time when they're blocked, in rare circumstances would they be a full-on narcissist. It's unlikely a full-on narcissist is going to want to come and do inner journey work. They just wouldn't, you know. So most of the time when they're blocked, it's because an entity's blocking it, or that person in themselves has a very, very controlling personality and they're struggling to let go. But most of the time that they can't go inside and they're struggling is because of an entity. So I mean, I'm just using my intuition and going, I think there's an entity. In my mind, I'm thinking, so I'm going to address this as if there's an entity. And then you see the kerfuffling in the background, you know, oh my God, got caught out. Woo, scary. You know, or sometimes if I would give people an appointment, I noticed this over the years, if you gave people an appointment too far ahead in the future, you know, over the week or two, the entity would take control even deeper of the person and stop them from showing up for the session. So I try not to give them an appointment too far in ahead, so the entity hasn't got time to talk to them in their head and stop them from doing it. And even when you're regressing them, the entity will be, I mean, this is what the clients tell me, the entity saying, don't listen to her, don't listen to her. You know, it's trying to gain its control and authority over them.
You know, this is amazing. You bring up so many points. And again, so I'm going to share a couple of things here. So me as a child, from the very beginning that I have memory, I have been attacked by the dark ones, the demonics, physically, mentally, emotionally. We lived in a haunted house. There was nothing but violence all around us in the place we lived. It was an awful, awful place. There was a serial killer over the road. Okay, so the energy attracts energy, attracts energy. Drugs, rapes, you name it, the darkest, the darkest. as a child that was born seeing, oh my God, did they come for me? They come for the light. They come for the light. By the time I've moved through into my early 30s, I have so many dark entities in my space. It's unbelievable. One day I sort out a spiritual mentor. I'm like, I'm fucking going mad. There's something wrong with me. I've done so much inner work. I cannot get, and he's like, oh my God, Dani, you're at the point of possession. It scared me so much. I'm like, get them off, you know, because you're like, what? Your ego says, no, 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 no. Dani, I'm much more evolved than that. I've been doing this. I've been studying this. I've been looking after people. It doesn't matter. Your point, Andrea, and you also, Elena, that we have got to stand vulnerable to ourselves and say, maybe I do have attachments. Maybe there is some inner work that needs to be done here. Now, the quantum hypnosis therapy train is full on running. And it is a very much a trend right now, but people are doing this, qualifying as quantum hypnotherapists. They're doing it online. The internet could go down at any second while you're leaving somebody in a vulnerable trance, which is why I won't, as a clinical hypnotherapist, I will not hypnotize people over the internet. No. Anyway, the other thing is that a lot of the people, the practitioners, have not done the inner work because nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to say, I might have some attachments. I might have past life entities attached to me, trying to stop me from going forward. I might have a tall, white, beautiful, mythological guide that's really a gray or really a demonic. You know, it takes a lot of courage for people to say, wow, I might be really in trouble here, but need to sit myself down and go into prayer and meditation and recognize the fact that I might have a few on board people that I don't really like. Now, I'm going to tell you a really scary story. Happened 2 weeks ago. Little girl, 8 years old, London. And mum reaches out, Dani, help me, help me. My child has a demonic attached to her. Okay, this just happened. I've asked the mum, may I please come online on my channel? May I please say her name? May I please ask for prayer? May I please help with this situation? The mother is not ready, but I can tell the story. So I finally get on with the mum. We have a conversation and then we go into the bedroom and there's the little girl. And this is how she looked at me. I shit you not. It was like watching a horror film. And it wasn't funny. And the little girl, yeah, she's only 8. The little girl was mute the whole way through because she knew anything I said to her, the demonic was listening. So here's what I did. And to parents out there, to anyone out there that thinks they might have an attachment, this is one of the most powerful things that you can do to help yourself. I said to this little girl, I need you to draw him for me. And she said his name is Baddie. So she draws a picture of Baddie. Baddie's purple, he's got red eyes, he's got wings, mimicking angelic, of course. And so she draws him. Once she drew him and she took her time, and it was very, very, very well done. And I said to her, how many angels do we need to bring in a surround Baddie to make him go away? She said 12. She then drew 12 angels around this demonic. And then I had her write down, I am powerful, I am strong, I am love. And she did it all. And it took us nearly 2 hours, me and her mum, just working. And I'm getting her giggling and I'm getting through and I'm just loving on her and telling her how strong, how brave, how powerful, how naughty Baddie is. He's not to be there. He's not allowed. He needs to go to the light. Made him into a cat poo. I said, he's a cat poo. That made her laugh. It helped her break down some of the fear. I then said that he's a very naughty boy and his mummy and daddy don't know that he's out of his bed and he's scaring you. So we're going to tell his mummy and daddy. So as I'm telling this child, the fear is breaking down in her. She's becoming able to relate more to this entity that is in her space. So it was an extremely powerful session. Within 10 minutes of us finishing our session, the kid went crazy, ripping up the paper, screaming at the mother, rah, growling, because the entity has been seen. The entity is in danger of being moved out. And the mum saying to her, what did Dani tell you? What did Dani tell you? And the kid's going, nothing. Now, it's terrifying This little girl is 8. There are lots of other children with entities around them. They are bright lights, and lots of adults. And you'll find a lot of the adults that have the entities around them are drug addicts, alcoholics, poor, beautiful people who are suffering with addictions because they numb themselves to the horror and the upset, but the demonics also get them, and the dark entities get them to maybe the demonic on the planet was a disgusting, filthy alcoholic, drug, running pedophilic, and they look for somebody, a human vessel, to infiltrate. Trojan horse again, another type of Trojan horse, and they will run their own off-planet addictions through the physical human vessel that they aim to take over. One more quick story. About 4 years ago, I dated this guy so briefly. It was like second night, he invited me over to his house to watch a movie, and I went over and I'm sitting on the sofa with him watching this movie, and I see in the far corner of the room a giant demonic. He was 8.5 foot tall, and he was just glaring at me. Because I've seen them my entire life, I turned to this guy, and I couldn't care less what his response was, because it's not about me. And I said, dude, there's a demonic standing right over there by your staircase. He's like, what? I said, there is a big demonic standing by your staircase. I said, looking at me, trying to scare me, so I will leave. I said, mate, you got a problem. And he went, oh my God. I went, take a deep breath. And he went, I always knew there was something with me, something following me. Anyway, I went home. He calls me up. He goes, can you come tomorrow night? I've got something to tell you. I go to his house, and he says, I am a full-blown alcoholic. And I said to him, thank you for being honest. We can never date, never, but I'll be your friend. One day he calls me up, Dani, I'm drunk. I've got to be in the car in LA tomorrow. Can you drive me, please? I'm like, okay. I go over to the house. We go into his bedroom, we lie down fully clothed. I'm there to help, someone who's in trouble out, right? I've got the day off the next day. It's all cool. Oh, and he kept saying, he had a garage. Every time he goes in the garage says, door opening, door opening. Anyway, he used to keep his hooch, his hard liquor, in a drawer inside the garage, right? So anyway, so laying in bed, all of a sudden the door opens and the demonic walks in. He's as solid as you girls. The demonic walks in down his side of the bed, goes over to him, yanks him up into a sitting position. And this guy just sits up in bed, sleep, gets out of bed and follows the demonic downstairs. And I'm sitting there thinking, holy shit. I hear the garage door open. The guy goes in the garage. I hear the drawer open, the drawer shut. I hear the door say, garage door opening. Guy comes back up, lays back down on the bed. In the morning, I said, oh my God, that demonic got you out of bed last night. You slept walk behind it, down into the garage and up again. And he went, oh my God, I always wondered why every single time I go into my drawer, the alcohol has gone. The demon is making him drink himself to death. And that demon wants that man's soul. Now, I was in a position to tell the man, I don't know, we're not in touch anymore. He's not my job, but I told him what I saw at the time. And there are lots and lots of humans with this situation right now.
Because alcohol,
Absolutely.
alcohol lowers the vibration. So, that's when they can get you. They get you to drink to lower down your vibration. Then they can feed off your energy, because when you drink enough alcohol, it's especially spirits. The name is spirits. You all your shields drop down, and the demonics, they can just hook at you and just plug into you. That's why they like to maintain people in addictions. I live in a small fishing village on the coast of Ireland, and there are 27 pubs. It's a drinking town. Yes, there are 2,000 people living there, and there are 27 pubs open 24/7. No, not 7, but but anyway, when I happen to walk at night in the street near to the pubs, or sometimes I go in because I have someone to meet, I see all these entities. It's filled with dark entities, packed at the doors of the pub, and you see them going in, going out, but more going in, and as time passes, and when you're in, everyone, and a lot of people have these kind of blobs attached, like kind of, you know, weird shapes, entities like attached to them, and sucking the life energy of them, and making them drink more and more and more. And I just want to add this, Dani, about alcohol, that it does that. So Andrea, you
Yeah.
want to say something?
Oh, no, 100% the alcohol. But it's like having compassion for why people have got out of control with the alcohol, because, you know, nowhere in their society in general are people like us saying, you know, the reason you're addicted to drinking is because every time your emotional self comes up, to try to allow you to process some deep shadow pain body of yourself, you feel very uncomfortable with those feelings of memories of the past or whatever, and so you drink to numb it out, to detach, or you stuff your face with food so these emotions get pushed down. But you know, they don't see that these entities then start off in their energy field and then work their way in to having more and more control, like the percentage of control gets higher and higher as they kind of, because they're not processing, you know, their backlog of trauma, whether it's their past lives, their inner child, or their ancestral program, the more and more they don't find the answer to that, the more and more they're taken over by these beings, or they end up with a mental health order slapped on them and them locked up.
Yes, 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 totally, totally.
Yeah. And so now if they're starting to hear, you know, stuff that we're saying to them, they're like, oh, there's, you know, but it depends whether their belief system will allow them, because it's all beliefs, isn't it? Is your belief system going to go, you know what, maybe that's the answer. Maybe there is some deep, dark shadow stuff inside myself that I haven't resolved, that I need to get to the bottom of. And as I start to do that inner work, I'm going to reclaim my own soul. I'm going to reclaim my own consciousness. I'm going to reclaim who I truly am. And, you know, your vibration will increase as you do that. But like, I'm sure you both say the same thing, is like, with that work comes a level of responsibility for your physical body and your life and your actions. And you can no longer be a victim.
That's very important.
Absolutely.
And not everybody wants to, not everybody wants that level of responsibility yet for their lives.
Yeah. You know, a lot of our guides, and I did a video on my channel to say, like, line your guides up and fire them. Now, for most people who are all caught up in, well, my guide is the Archangel Michael, and my guide is blah, 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 because that feeds the ego. Oh, my guide. Yes, my guide, my guide. Oh, my God. Why are we relying on the guides? Like, seriously, because we are programmed. It is another Trojan freaking horse. Let's have a guide. Oh, I'm so holier than thou. I'm so spiritually evolved. Oh, no, Yogananda said this. I love Yogananda. He just, the name that popped into my head. Okay, nothing about him. But there are people that say, I am this, I am that, I have this, I have that. I'm like, line them all up, fire their asses, all of them. Because you've got to put yourself in front of that mirror, in front of that light, for your own survival at this time. Because if you cannot let yourself, if anything's going to stand up alongside you and it's true benevolent spiritual support, then you are going to have to make that mark, take that step, let your ego go. Don't be like, oh, sorry, I'll call you back, because you might be calling back a demonic, an attachment, a past life presence, a present time presence, somebody that saw you in the bar and thought, oh, I'm going to go home with you, or saw you one night when you were doing a Ouija board and thought, oh yeah, you're easy game. Let me fuck your life up for you. Like, we've got to get a real understanding that all of these things happen to all of us. And like, I've been a therapist for so long, a spiritual mentor for so long. And the reason why I do this beautiful work is because I have lived this to almost the point of possession. Like, that's why people come to me. That's why people come to you, Andrea, and you know, you, Elena. We're all doing different elements of the same sphere of spirituality, which is to shine the light on ourselves, number one, do our inner work, be okay with being vulnerable, and then help other people come to their own understanding. Andrea, go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's like once I felt like something might have been attached to me, and I said to a friend, "Can you see it?" And she, "Oh yeah, I think I can." And then she was making this big story of how she had to help me, and because I've done this for so many years, I know how to get rid of them on myself. And so I lay down, and this, you know, really angry being came forth, and he said, "The children of light will not enter the portal of Marduk." And I said, "The children of light will enter the portal of Marduk." And with that, this angry being went, you know, they get really angry, like banging the little fists down, and you just have to embody you. And I said, I embody myself as a living portal. We are a living portal.
Yes.
I am a portal. I'm a goddess. I'm embodying myself as a living portal. And you know, you're not gonna get angry with these beings. You just stand in your power, and they go, you know, kind of thing. And that was before I even knew where these names Marduk came from. And then you realize how much they've been trying to, and some of them are thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. You know, the average person probably hasn't got people who've been there thousands and thousands of years old. But, you know, there are beings that have been there thousands and thousands of years, you know, trying to trip us up, trying to stop us from this very point that we're on the planet now, this crucial, important point. And you know, everything that is not working for our soul's highest purpose, you know, they're creating diseases, bumps and lumps in your body. And the more you go in and clear all this stuff out, you can heal your body. You know, that's my real passion, that, you know, we can heal our bodies naturally. You know, if, you know, to me, this is all malarkey, where we lowered our consciousness and then we believe, no, you need to cut bits of you out, just fling bits of you out. Well, if they were putting you in the beginning, why would you be flinging these bits of you out? And oh, you know what, we'll get something from another person and put it inside of you. Well, yeah, you maybe can do this, but you don't need to do this. You can heal these organs and bits of you inside of you, but you're not going to heal them with the information that you've been told previously. And I think it's really sweet that people think that if they change their diet, which will help, and their lifestyle, that'll help, but you're not going to heal big diseases, you know, the big famous one that everybody seems to get at some point these days, without doing emotional inner journey work and healing your inner child, whether that's from being in the womb trauma, inner child, you know, ancestral stories of trauma from the ancestors. So you have to go, like, for example, I had one client, well, I've told this story quite a few times, but I just think it's useful from an ancestral healing point of view. She had breast cancer. So we were looking at how had she manifested that. And that was linked to 3 or 4 generations back from her great-great-grandmother. Her great-great-grandmother had been the eldest sibling, and the youngest sibling had a baby, got pregnant, and being the eldest sibling, she'd helped to arrange for this baby to be, you know, adopted, given away, got rid of, and the guilt and shame of what she'd done had stayed with her. And of course, generations later, that manifests into lumps and bumps in your body. So you have to resolve the stories of the ancestors, and then you have to look at the stories of your own soul and release all these things. But people, you know, they don't know how to do this, and they're being told this isn't how you heal, so it makes it harder for them.
Yeah, I've been confronted to these cases a few times in the shamanic work, because I practice as a shaman as well. When the cause of a problem, a disease or something, is we journey it, we connect to the pain or the trauma, and we are going to go on a quest, vision quest, like riding it and see where it leads. And it always leads in the past. DNA of these bodies we borrow keep memory of everything. So we are going to find at some point in the journeying back throughout the blood, the DNA, an ancestor at one point that had that happens, something happened to him or her, and that's where we're gonna connect with this ancestor and try to sort out the problem. And it's exactly how you do in your way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same. I mean, it doesn't matter how we're doing it. It's the same conclusion that we're coming to, that all these beings have been, you know, playing with these people for a long time. And, you know, people get upset because I used to post things like, I doubt you've had a free thought for 7 generations, you know, that has been your own thought for the average. And people get very upset by saying things like that. But the thing is, though, you know, and I told that story about a guy who manifested this cancer in his arm as well once, which is a great story of cancer in his forearm. And he said, no, I get that I've manifested this myself, you know, and I know that people can heal it. I've seen these stories of people healing it. And I said, yeah, you've got, you know, issues with male authority figures as well. And we did the regression, and, you know, he had been on a slave ship in a past life, being whipped repeatedly on his forearms. So that was why it manifests where there's it always manifests where there's a weakened cell memory. And then he had an entity, so he didn't just have that, he had an entity attached. He was a strict school teacher, and she was hitting him with a ruler there, so that was why it went there. And then I said, when are you going to see your surgeon? He said, another week's time. I said, well, you've done really well in this session, come back and see me before you see the surgeon. But he cancelled the session. But as he was leaving, obviously, because he cancelled the session a few days later, but as he was leaving, he turned around to me and he said, do you know, my mother's not noticed how serious this is. And I thought, oh, this is a guy in his 40s, you know, trying to resolve his emotional trauma from childhood with his mother that he hasn't resolved yet. So he cancelled the session, and I was going to let it go. And then I thought, no, because there was something for me to learn in this. So I sent him this little email about, you know, what happened? Did you see the surgeon? What did he say? You know, you maybe didn't like me, but, you know, you should keep doing this inner work because you were really good at going inside yourself and find somebody else. If it was me you didn't like, you can do this. And he said, no, my surgeon couldn't operate on my foot, couldn't get this tumor out. And so the next line, it said, so I'm going to amputate my arm on Saturday. I'm like, wow, this guy is going to cut his arm off, you know. And so I just messaged back and said, well, do you think mummy will be nice to a little boy with one arm? Because I would rather trigger you and trigger a healing in you than have you like me or ever see me again. And I don't know to this day what happened to him, because he never messaged back.
Wow.
I hope
You know, but this is it. Rather than people, this is how hard it is for people. Rather than people go inside themselves and look at their stories, they would rather do something so physical. And I had to learn at that point, because I cried for that man for 3 hours on the beach in Cornwall. It was quite a few years ago now, and I had to learn to detach from the clients, which I think, you know, if you're an empath, you can get very emotionally attached to, you know, you care about these people and you care about their stories, but there is a point where you have to emotionally detach, because you can't get involved that deeply with it to carry on being able to do this work and to stay in health ourselves.
Yeah, Dani, I see you throwing some ideas down. So what do you think?
Oh, well, you know, it's like
ideas.
we have so many thousands and thousands of stories between us, and it's just like finding the right ones that help the audience that watches this get the maximum healing and input that they possibly can while we're all on this healing journey. What we noticed a lot of last year was about a lot of people that really wanted to connect to their off-planet Pleiadian, Andromedan, Arcturian, Sirian, you know, and then a lot of the quantum healing kind of energy seemed to be focused on people going into a trance and then believing that they're connecting to their star families. And a lot of them did and had an amazing time. And that's all great. And this year, it's very clear to me that our role as therapists and spiritual, not leaders, but just speakers and sharers, you know, forget the word leadership, we're all here to lead ourselves, you know, and be authoritarians for ourselves. But to me, this is about the ancestral healing, the inner child healing, the past life healing this year, right now. One of the things that is the most disturbing to my mind, and has always been, every time I've been on television and made a, done an investigation where we've gone to a castle or an office or a piece of land where there is a haunting, I always, have always, will always honor the spirits on that land. Now, general television, they screw up, they leave the spirits all churned up. Nobody, it's terrible. It's so shocking. And I wrote a TV show, it's called The Agency, and it's based on all of my true paranormal documented investigations. And at the end of each real true story, you will see the cast taking care and honoring and blessing and praying for the spirits to be released back to wherever. And also the dark demonics always get the opportunity to go to the light. Now, one of the saddest aspects of any spiritual being that is on this planet to me are the earthbounds. And I'm going to tell you a very quick story about a physical earthbound that I met. So years ago, I was invited, this is in my book. My book is Angels, Aliens and Demons. So one of the stories. So I'm invited to go and investigate the cottage in the woods. 200-year-old cottage way down in Sussex. You had to get out your car and trundle down into the belly of this forest, right? It was like proper spooky, but proper brilliant as well. And so long story short, there was so much activity in this cottage, it was bonkers. But I'm going to tell you about one particular spirit inside this cottage. So the lady of the house, her name's Sarah. So Sarah was one night in bed and heard something rushing up the stairs and beating on her door. She was so frightened she couldn't move. She was paralyzed. She doesn't remember what happened entirely, but the next thing, this calm comes over her. She falls asleep and wakes up and it's morning, but she's beyond terrified. So she's called me into the house. So anyway, I get all the way up into her bedroom and I'm looking at this bed. Now it's an old ancient cottage. There's only one place in this bedroom to put a bed, one place, because it's such a small old fashioned cottage. And then I'm standing and I'm looking at the bed. And there's a woman in the bed, in spirit, a big woman lying on the left-hand side of the bed. So I said to Sarah, Sarah, do you sleep on the left side of the bed? She said, yes. I said, how's your back? She went, oh my God, Dani, my back is in absolute agony. I said to her husband, does she roll over at night? He went, oh my God, Dani, every night I have to push her off my body. And the reason why I could feel the back pain, because it was in my back, because I'm linking into this lady who's still lying in the bed. Now that lady died in that spot years before of back cancer. And she was transferring her energy into Sarah, and Sarah was getting sick. Now I know this is scary, sorry, but you know what? It's time we opened our minds a little bit to some of the possibilities that exist in these old houses and places that we live, the land that is now been built on new modern buildings. Everyone goes, oh, there's nothing here. How do you know? That's why we sage. That's why we put Bibles everywhere. That's why we use frankincense and myrrh. That's why we bless. That's why we use our Coptics. That's why we do beautiful ritual blessings in places to make sure these dark entities are gone. And also when we see an earthbound spirit, like I did this lady, I was unable to communicate with her, send her love, let her know that she died and that it was time for her to move on to the light. Call in the angelic realms, call in her Jesus, her Buddha, whatever it was at the time, and allow that energy to move on. Sarah slept fine, nothing ever happened again. I actually moved a couple of years later, but we're still in touch, as I am with a lot of my clients. But isn't that a great story? Like that shocked me though, of all of my years of doing so many investigations, so many one-to-ones with people, so many past life regression groups, that particular story really surprised me because I'd never seen a ghost still in the bed, still earthbound like that, but also starting to infect the living person that was lying in the same place they were night after night after night.
Yeah, because the
Yeah, I've
diseases
seen that.
are frequencies. Yeah. Go on, Andrea, please.
And sometimes they'll go between the building and then attaching to the human. They'll even tell you that. Sometimes I'm in the building, sometimes attached to the human, sometimes they attach to other people linked to that building as well, so they're playing with them all, you know. I mean, I've seen it when I used to own holiday let here, and if they were nice people, they'd say they'd had a healing in the building, but if they weren't such nice people, they'd say when we went to bed the windows opened and somebody ate our sweets that were left on the table, and you know, all kinds of things. But it was these beings, you know. We cleared them out, and there was a couple arguing in a back room. They thought it was still stuck in the 1500s. And then when you're dealing with these entities, when they're attached to the humans, you know, I ask them, I say to them, you know, what year is it? And they go, oh, it's 1857. And you go, no, I'm sorry, it's, you know, say 2021. They go, no way, no way. So sometimes they have no idea what year it is themselves. You know, if they're earthbound beings, you know, they're not really dark malevolent beings, they're just humans that died and their soul fragmented, and they've somehow attached to this person. And if they're children who've died and attached to the human, it's often quite sweet, because they go, once you explain to them, you know, and you talk to them like they're a child, you know, this isn't your body, that you've attached to this person, and we're going to bring somebody lovely so you can go, and we guide them off to where they go. They literally go, thank you, bye-bye, bye-bye, and they wave as they're going, which is so sweet. And they're really, and the client goes, oh, I feel, and you see the person actually become an adult, you know. And I think the other thing that I'm really conscious of with people is that, you know, they look like an adult and then they open their mouth and out of their mouth comes this hello, like a child voice, you know. And this is either one of two things, either an entity attached, or often one of three things, an entity attached, or an entity and a trauma that they've not healed. So this voice has got stuck as a child, and they're just like talking like hello, like a child, and they need to heal this so they can regain their full vocal resonance.
Can I just quickly say something? You just reminded me,
Of
Andrea,
course.
a movie I saw years ago going on about how in a past life a loop can keep happening, and a past life death can keep going on and repeating. So Liam Neeson, my boyfriend, in my dreams, hi Liam, call me, really fancy you. Anyway, do you remember? Yeah, I'm kind of not joking. I kind of love the idea of having an Irish husband or boyfriend, whatever, because that's available right now. Just playing. No, but Liam Neeson, call me. Anyway, he did a movie, I think it was called High Spirits. And it was funny because I was a nursery nurse in Canada. I was with 10 nursery nurses or nannies. We all went to the movies. 9 of them went to watch Chucky, that horrible horror film with the little doll. And I went to watch the Liam Neeson movie, which was High Spirits. And it was brilliant. And it was about him. It was a haunted castle. People come for a weekend. There's all these spirits and spooks, and they actually are real ones. And they've tried to make fake ones there. But anyway, you just reminded me of that. But point being that you can walk in anywhere. You can walk into a rehabbed mental hospital that's now these amazing flats and apartments and places of living, and you can still feel the darkness. And a giveaway, a physical giveaway, is watch out for the crows and the ravens and the different kinds of, see how you guys went, yes, like that, because you know they're animals. My God, do they ever give us the telltale signs, right, Elena?
Oh my God, the animals, yes. And I think Andrea understands that as well. The animals, they look at the animals.
How is it an island?
Oh my God. Oh my God, look at the animals, how they behave. They will tell you what's going on. They will tell you what's going on. And the ravens, they will always be there when there's a connection with the realm of the other world. You know, there will always be ravens. Why? Because they are birds of prey. They prey on dead animals, on dead bodies. So they attune to this frequency of death. Okay, because that's how they hunt. That's how they find their food. They respond to this frequency. So everywhere where there's no corpse, no died animal on the ground, but plenty of crows, plenty of ravens. Why? Because there's a portal open and there's a ghost somewhere, you know. So that's, yeah, that, thank you for mentioning that. Yes, yeah. Well, I have a lot to tell about extraterrestrial infiltrations, but I maybe other stories to share about how earthbound spirit can how can we help them, you know, how can we help these earthbound spirits to be free. I know myself, I have liberated a ghost once. I was in a house of a friend. She said, "Oh, I've poltergeist. Everything's moving everywhere. It's very freaky." So it was for years always there. I went to her house and I said, "What's the oldest part of the house?" She said, "Oh, this 15th century part." Okay, let's go there. And suddenly we were sat in the kitchen and at the table, and I said, "Just relax. It's gonna show itself because they're gonna smell." I smell them. There was a shelf with books, and the books started to go pum, 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 pum. And she said, "Oh my God, it's starting. Don't freak out. Let's wait." And then we are in the kitchen. The drawer of one of opened like crack, and there was a little hanging, handle. Gling, 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 crack, gling, gling, gling. And I say, "Okay." It tries to communicate. It tries to communicate. If it won't able to move books on a shelf, it didn't throw any books at you, it didn't harm you, never ever. If it's able to pull back up and out and back a drawer, it has strength. So it could harm you, it never did. So relax, it's not someone who wants to harm you, it's someone who wants to attract attention. So what I did, I took a paper and a pen and I went in front of the drawer and I grabbed the handle where I knew the hand of the ghost was, and I put my hand in it, and it was really cold, and at that moment I sensed fear from the ghost. The ghost was desperate and crying for help and terrified. And it happened, it was a little girl that was murdered. We researched it because I asked her name, and with my other hand, I asked the ghost to make me write, and she did. She wrote her name, which we could verify at the archives of the city hall. There was a little girl murdered there at the time, 15th century. So what I did, I said, "Okay, uh, guide me. I'm going to help you getting out of this." I knew her name because you need to know the name. When you know the name, it's really helpful. We went, I took her by the hand. We were holding to a bedroom, and I asked my friend to open the window. I was guided and I sat. And at the time, that instinct, I recited the Christian Our Father, that who are in heaven. I recited that over and over again, and the little girl lifted my hand, and I said her name. I said, "I liberate you. I set you free. I set you free by the powers of God. I set you free." And I took held my hand towards the window, and she left. I actually felt her fingers doing this. At the moment it parted from me, there was such a joy. I never experienced this joy in my life from her celebration. And she left by the window. 2 nights later, she came back to offer me a thank you gift. She showed me where she was. She showed me the afterlife. And it was a beautiful place. So that's my experience of setting free a stuck spirit. Do you have stories like this, girls?
Yeah, I think to be honest with you, I think the ones that are attached to the humans and the buildings are more or less the same, because when you start asking them the same questions, what year is it, what do you think is happening? The thing is, though, they haven't resolved the stuff from that lifetime, and they need to resolve it. Often I ask them, were you in an accident or an illness, when they're attached to the humans, and they'll tell you the story, and then you talk them through going, it isn't the year you think it is. You've got trapped here, you've died, and how were you feeling at the time when you died? So you'd ask them the same questions, even if they're in a building, I think. And sometimes, you know, I've been to people's houses and I thought, oh, they've got people stuck here. And I've tried to tell them, this is what you can do. I'll come and help you, but see if you can clear it yourself, because it's much better if you can empower people to clear it, because it's their house where they're living. See if they can clear it themselves. Just talk to them, ask them to go, tell them you're living here now, that when they lived here, that time's moved on now, and you love them. And then I usually ask them to bring their higher self to come to collect them, so their multidimensional higher self will come to collect them. Because over the years, when I was doing this, when they were attached to humans, occasionally, say I'd see, in the beginning years of me doing this, I'd maybe see the same client a few weeks later, and the same entity would pop up, and I'd be like, hold on, I got rid of you a few weeks ago. And they go, oh no, you thought you did. And so I'd be like, well, how have you managed to reattach to my client? And that was when I started to learn that you can't just do spirit releasing, you've got to take them back to the day they attached and resolve the emotion within the client, because otherwise they might reattach again. And you also need to bring their higher self and make sure they've really gone. And often the client, you know, when they're laying there with their eyes closed, they'll say, oh, I see them going, they're going, or I feel them coming out of my body, and they go, oh, I feel so much better now, like I feel so much better, you know, they feel lighter and they look lighter as well.
Yeah, Dani, what would you have to add?
Well, you ask. I mean, I'm just, the stories. Just yeah, how long do we have? I just sort of 3 really quick ones, but also want to say to anyone who's never come across Andrea Foulkes. Oh my gosh! So my beautiful fiance, he died last year, and I was beyond broken. And I went to this beautiful girl, this friend of mine, for one of her sessions, and she helped me in ways I can't even express, makes me want to cry. But what happened was, she took me to a time when I was 3, because something had found its way into my spirit that had not, was because I was in that terrible depths of sadness and so lost in grief and suicidal, and really it takes a lot to own your feelings and obviously admit them on the bloody internet too, but happy to do that because we're all here to support and share vulnerabilities, right? And Andrea, she took me through a process, and she helped me. So as she's expressing what she does, guys, I am a client and she's my friend, but she's incredible work, deep work. So I wanted to say, you said, do we have any more stories about spirits that are stuck? So I rented for a short time a little house in Coronado. Holy God, I don't think I've ever seen more spirits in one house in my life. And this one night I wake up and there was an old lady sitting at the bottom of my bed, an overweight lady, heavy because I could feel the weight of her physical body on the end of the bed. I sit up, I'm looking at her. She's as solid as you guys are. And I'm telepathically saying to her, oh my God. She barely even looked around at me because her whole forlornness of being earthbound, of being stuck, she let me know, you can't help me, no one can help me. And she was so programmed, as a religious woman, you're going to get judged, you're going to hell. And I communicated to her what utter shit that is. It's a lie. It's a Christian lie, a Catholic lie. Nobody goes to hell, that unless they're a pedophile or a child rapist or something. Let's not go there. But and anyway, she allowed me to pray with her, and she got proof, and it was mind-blowing seeing her depart. And it was so clear. The same house. My first husband, God love him, the amount of times I woke up at night in this house like screaming and yelling. So I wake up and I can hear this noise, and I look out the little window and there's 2 men. There's 2 men. They're like, God, less than 5 feet away from my window, a Mexican dad and his son. It is a nano quantum second when you see a spirit, you know so much about them. And these guys were wearing brand new white socks, which is a really extraordinary detail, I thought. So I'm jabbing my husband saying, there's 2 men outside the window, 2 men. He's naked. I'm like, quick, do something. Because, oh, for fuck's sake, Dani. So he goes running outside. He's a martial artist. No one there. no one there, no way they could have jumped the fence. They just showed up because they knew I would see them. And that's what some spirits do. Last story, the same house. I'm getting all bothered one night. I'm like, oh my God, I go into the living room because my poor husband needs to sleep, because at the time I was like, God, there's too many spooks in this house. I'm lying on the sofa and there's a long mirror near me. I open my eyes and there is a tall, skinny man wearing a black cowboy hat, a black waistcoat and black trousers, jeans, looking at himself in the mirror. The extraordinary detail of that vision, that was, he's again as solid as you guys are, he had a reflection in the mirror. No, I'd never seen that before. This ghost had a reflection. Anyway, I went, he heard me, he disappears. The next day I go to the library, Coronado, California, and I'm living right, whoa, did you hear that? I'm living right up by the military base, the naval, highly naval, nuclear naval base. It's half the island is the naval base. I do research. I'm like, what was here? Why would I, I'm British, I'm from London. Why would I see a cowboy on a little island of San Diego? Oh my God. The naval base used to be a horse ranch. Bada bing.
Incredible.
Yeah,
Incredible.
yeah. I know.
And I think that's also why, you know, I mean, the other thing is they're not just in houses, these earthbound spirits. So, you know, where you see a straight line, we have it a lot in the UK, where you see people have tied flowers because people have had an accident. And you think, why do people keep having accidents here? It's a straight line. You know, why in this road that's a straight line do people keep having accidents? And there's one in Beaconsfield that's like that. This road is a place called Beaconsfield. And, you know, I kept seeing people keep having accidents here in a place called Chalfont St. I think it's Chalfont St. Peter, I think, which is Beaconsfield. And I could see, because I can see them still in battle, these horses going across the road. But the thing is, though, I know what dimension they're in. Other people don't. Even my dad, who's, bless him, he's 95 now, but when he was 90, he said, near where they live, where my parents' house is, he said, I was wondering what this place looked like in medieval times. And with that, a couple of medieval people crossed the road. And he said, but I knew they were not in this dimension, so I drove straight through them.
Oh my God.
But I think the other thing is people aren't driving straight through them, because this is the whole thing about evolving spiritually, and like we are, you know, we're very grounded with this, and we're able to discern what is what and what is the collective reality we're all existing in. And that's what keeps you sane, I think, isn't it? I mean, Elena will probably explain that quite well, I would think.
Oh, yes, yes. Once you understand, fear disappears. So once you understand what you are dealing with, you stop being fearful. That's why we are all working all together to tell people what we've experienced and what we know, for people to understand better and stop being fearful. Because when you're scared, you that's when you do stupid things and you can kill yourself, you know, accidentally. So girls, we would go forever talking about these stories, and I want to bring to talk about two things quickly, and then pick your brain last thing about it, about infiltration. And that's what my domain is, the people from other worlds. So what I want to say, it's something very important. I know it's a long video, but people need to hear that, okay? The dark controllers, CABAL, on Earth have had access to devices called looking glass. So they have had access to time travel and to look into time, what's going to happen. Okay, they knew this, we would wake up, we would awaken. They knew that, and they worked very hard at trying to prevent it. Okay, so their way of preventing it is sending back at the right moment in time a person who will be programmed to stop the process, to interfere, to cause confusion, that that also brings distraction and distract people to do what they have to do. So knowing that, there are two things I want to mention that have been part of their plans. They sent, so yes, we are in 2022 as we are speaking now. About 5 years ago, they've been starting to prepare people by infiltrating the spiritual movements on social medias, notably by distractions. So it's programs, it's well done, it was well prepared, taking elements of earth religions such as Archangel Michael, Jesus, Jerusalem, what's this con artist? Saint Germain was a con artist. Things like that, and real spiritual masters who are really real, ascended masters. People like, don't go and bother them, have nothing to do with that. So to just catch the attention of people. And also important thing is the whole Ashtar story. I mean, in the 1970s, there was an extraterrestrial being that was a true story from the Ashtar Galactic Command, who hijacked a TV program on the British TV and to pass
Yes.
on a message. Okay, that was a real thing. That's been
Have you seen
used.
that, Dani?
Yeah,
Yeah, you've seen it.
that's been used. So they invented an Ashtar religion, like Ashtar Shiran, they even called him. That doesn't exist. That's a psyops
I
to
don't resonate with.
distract people, to these. They invented all these so-called ETs, ascended masters, calling themselves lords. I mean, that the benevolent extraterrestrials, what they hassle us with is step in your own power, stop kneeling, consider yourselves as equals with them, and only then you can join our community. No benevolent extraterrestrial would tell, I am superior than you, I am your lord, worship me. I mean, I'm wiser than you, just do what I'm telling you. And it's very easy to spot because they use poor victims, people who have their heart on their sleeves, who want to do the good for humanity, sometimes real channelers, and they hack them, they infiltrate them, they hack them, and they're going to pass on these messages to them. And you see that published on social medias. It's like like encyclopedia long, and it starts always by the same formulas. That's distraction. That's taking, they
And
take power away from people. Sorry, Andrea, you want to say something? You want to say something, Andrea?
I was going to say, I know this, yeah, it's a little bit naughty what I've done, but sometimes I write my own message, on social media, and you put your name at the bottom of it, and maybe somebody might share it, they might not. It's a good message, okay? And sometimes I know it's naughty and I don't believe in these beings, okay, but sometimes I put their names to see if people will share it, if I put that it's a message from these beings. Yes. And they will share it if they think it's a message from these beings, but they won't share it if it's from a physical human in a body. And yet I'm in a physical body, I'm in incarnation now, but you can't hear that wisdom unless I say I'm a being that's not in a physical body. But actually, to come into incarnation and be in a physical body, being able to share like the wisdom Dani's got and Elena's got, it takes a lot of energy to do that. And why would you dismiss that wisdom if that person's in a physical body and only listen to beings who are not in a physical body?
Yes, absolutely. That tells it. And if it's labeled Ashtar or Saint Germain or Sananda, they'll take anything. And at the start is positive message, empowering, and then it changes. It has all changed, like last year at the same time, doom and gloom. Fear, the thing is, it has changed into some catastrophic events are going to happen, and only the chosen ones will be
Oh
saved
yeah,
and taken
bollocks.
on Jerusalem ship. Come on, it is, don't give names to their ships, and not certainly not names of cities on earth. Come on, wake up. And then it's so evil sometimes that even they say, oh yes, but you can't take your pets with you, and you know that. Oh my God, how how evil, how mean is that? It's just taking people down by the emotional. That's really evil. That's what they do, the chosen ones who do well your homeworks and do well what we are telling you, and then you'll be maybe saved, by imaginary saviors. Oh my God, stop that. That's infiltration. That's horrible. Before I pass to the second subject, would you have some commentaries about that, girls?
Yeah, the
Danny.
144, sorry, the one, so Elena, on our last broadcast with Dr. Michael Salla and Alex Collier, we raised the 144,000. Oh my God, the pushback was really obnoxious. So many people were so upset. They said terrible things. I mean, I deleted them all, of course, and didn't bother even responding, but it really surprised me. There are so many different conversations connected to what the 144,000 actually is. Now, my understanding, which is why I raised it at our last broadcast, was that, you've got Janet and Julie. Hello, Janet. Hello, Julie. Aren't you glad you're one of the 144,000 selected? Yeah. Poor old Helen. Helen's not going to make it. Yours her dad. Those conversations are happening. It's like they think we're all chosen. We're all chosen. That's it. That's right.
I had it last week with this woman. She popped up out of the blue from. She appeared years ago and she started saying, Andrea, don't you remember me? I'm your galactic mother. I'm like, no, I don't remember you being my galactic mother. No, it doesn't resonate. And then I must have been in a group somewhere and she popped up again. I thought, oh, it's that woman again. And she said, Andrea, she said, you're not going to be one of the 144,000. I said, I don't believe that. And she said, well, maybe let your father speak to you. So now she posts a picture of her husband. I'm like, no, not doing it for me. Bye. And I had to block her for her own well-being. I had to block her.
Oh my God. Oh my God, yes, I know, but I have had people getting to me because they were hacked. A woman was convinced she was my sister because she has had implanted memories. And I said, no, I cannot. No, not only I don't confirm it, but my friends upstairs don't confirm it as well. People are totally or hacked or brainwashed to just cause chaos and confusion, and that's terrible. That's
Wow.
terrible.
And you have so much compassion for them, but you can't get through to them because they can't see it. You cannot see what you cannot see, and you can't heal what you're not ready to heal. And like I told the story with that gentleman and his arm, sadly, and some people, they're not going to heal themselves, and that is a form of free will because they have the free will not to listen to. And it's like I just see it now like Earth is this massive ancient mystery school where you're learning discernment on the highest level right now. It's like the graduating school of discernment. Are you going to take your power back? How much responsibility do you want? And can you discern the right truth from the wrong information? And will you truly trust yourself, because that's who you've got to trust yourself.
100%. That is the biggest key. You asked about Ashtar. Very quick story on Ashtar. I'm in England years ago. I hear this woman. Oh my God, can you hear? I sound like a freaking Dalek from Doctor Who and the Daleks. Did you hear that? So anyway, so I get invited to this event, and this woman, and she's saying that she's married to Ashtar. So I'm like, I've got an open mind. Let me go sit down. I'm sitting next to her. There's like 10 other people in the room. So she's very sweet, this lady, and she's very happy that she's married to Lord Ashtar, and she's Lady Ashtar, and she's sitting there, and it's such a lovely time, and we're all having tea and cucumber sandwiches with our pinky up, and it's all proper. And then all of a sudden she went, he's coming. And then her whole demeanor changed. And she went, ha, 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 I am Ashtar. I shit you not. That is exactly how she spoke. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to laugh. I need to leave. I can't watch this. I'm sitting right next to her. I can't hide my face. Face not going to hide. It's too funny. And I laughed because I thought she was joking at first. I thought she was taking the piss. So I'm like, you know, at her. And then everyone glared at me. I'm clearly the new girl. I'm like, oh shit, this is real. This is her gig. There was possession though.
Possession and sexual energy hooking. I mean,
yeah, the succubuses and the incubuses as well, you know, because that's
how they got them.
The sacral chakra, isn't it, where they come in, and then they think they're having sex with these ghosts or entities or whatever. In fact, there was one woman, I have to say it's quite embarrassing now, but when I worked on This Morning, there was a woman who was interviewed.
Say what This Morning is, darling. Say what This Morning is.
This Morning is, it's like Good Morning America if you're in America. It's equivalent to that, because that was the show I worked on initially. But they have people on doing different things. And when I was on, it was a long time ago. It's got sort of progressively less interesting over the years, but there's a lady there who's marrying a ghost because she has sex with this ghost, but that's an incubus or a succubus, and people don't understand about, you know, succubuses and incubuses, which is a whole other story in itself, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're having sex with something that is not the same physical density and creation as you, don't. That's not
there's a tip.
You know?
There's a life hack. Yes, let's not shag the unseen. You know,
no, that makes sense. No,
Jesus.
Oh my God.
Oh God.
Oh girl, I want to. Yeah. I want to. Go on.
I'd love to know, Elena. I have so many questions because I don't know. Like, how do you see? You know, when you say you can draw them and you can see these beings, how can you see it, or is it in your mind's eye that you see it?
Two different things. The way I wrote my first book, A Gift from the Stars, it was telepathic information. So I was sent visions, images, like holograms in my head of telepathically of these beings, and I was watching, trying to record my memory and then sketching very quickly and then doing the drawing better. Otherwise, it's drawings from memories I'm living through physically. And when I come back, I just do drawings because I have all my time because it's in my head. So
I can't wait to read your book. You know, it's going to because these beings. I had this experience with once. I was dating this guy who we weren't even talking about mystical stuff, and he just put his finger on my third eye, and I just felt to close my eyes. And then I saw these beings in another universe bobbing about with these like silver things over their heads, like a little thing like that over their heads, but they all had them and they were bobbing about. And they had that little peak, like people say are blue avians, but these beings were not blue avians. But I was just intrigued who they were. So I'm looking to see in your book if these beings exist in your book.
Hopefully you will find it. So I was mentioning to not to make it too long, the dark human ones organization on Earth having access to looking in looking glasses, time devices, knowing that the awakening would happen and the great awakening would happen, and knowing that we had all the chances to win this war. So they sent back people in time to try to corrupt and compromise this process as much as they could, maybe gain time to try to rule out their plans. So there was something else than the infiltrations of the New Age movements. There's also some dark secret space programs where people have been abducted and not now. It's very important. I'm not talking of all the people who have been taken in SSP, just some of them. Some of them were taken for a purpose to be sent back and spread confusion. Some of them, okay? Uh, so how does a program is installed? First, you need to deconstruct the person. So taken as a kid, Montauk methods by emotional torture, deconstructing the soul. And when you're a kid, you know that's it. And then you're like a vegetable, and you are downloaded new programs, fake implanted memories, and then you gonna be in contact. You have some that it's programming. It's with a clock, like supposed to be activated at the right moment in time. And so this programming is going to spread confusion. How does that work? The person will be sent back in time, and at the right moment, the person will start to gain popularity, be seen, and being trusted, and get on the front stage, on the media, this person is going to tell things, give information that will be true and really true and verifiable. And then this person will gain total trust of everyone and be even admired. The program is not, you cannot just guess it because it's not a device implanted, okay? I knew someone recently who was programmed and I couldn't even see it. Even Thorhan and my friend upstairs, they couldn't even see the programming because there is no device. You cannot detect anything until the program eventually starts, just activates. And then, oh, suddenly you see it. But there's no technology involved. So you can't know, there's no technology. Otherwise it will be, fine. You can find it very quickly. No implant, nothing. So then the person is going to spread confusion and the audience will follow and believe. So that is something very disturbing because then you think, who can I trust? Who can I trust? Because these people were telling truth before, and then suddenly they go mental and spread doom and gloom, and they've changed. And so that's I wanted to mention this. So what are your thoughts, girls? Dani, what would you say about that?
One of the ways to ascertain if somebody has implanted memories, because like you said, we've had technology on our planet that is beyond what most people can even comprehend, and that's a fact. And one such piece of technology is the looking glass, which people were able to look into the future via this technology. But the dark ones, the dark crime families, the criminals that run my planet, your planet, our planet, they looked at it so many times for their own gain, to make their billions, to enslave, to jump time, to whatever, that actually all the timelines now collapse into one. But what they did do was they saw this time, they saw someone like Elena Danaan, someone like Andrea Foulkes, who was going to be standing out in the light, vulnerable, but trying to share love and wealth of inner history, inner growing, inner authority. And what they did was they sent people into your lives to befriend you, to stand alongside you, to not just you two, but many others. And they didn't know they had a memory program. The memory stick was no. And this is the thing, and it breaks my heart for people who are coming to understand, oh my God, I had an inserted memory, I didn't know that. It's very sad, but it's happened, it's happening, it probably will keep happening. So again, we've got to use that discernment. Like I said, we three here are very vulnerable, but we could be messing with people. Like we could just be totally manipulating the audience, right? There is always that possibility. The only thing an individual can do is really discern for themselves inside, and don't follow people. Don't follow you, follow your heart, follow your light. You have direct access to God, to Jesus, to Hashem, to Yahweh, whatever you believe in. Me, it's called love. I have direct access to love. Whatever I came from, whatever the soul in me that is the spark of love that I came from, I go right up, baby, and right down. That is my way up and down. I follow no one. I love people. I listen. I pay attention. I believe in getting an education no matter how much I think I might know. We never stop learning. We never stop growing. And it's okay. That is my internal, my guidance system. That's it. I follow no one. And I love you all.
And I think it's just, coming back to your heart. You can easily get triggered, out of your heart, but it's like coming back to your heart. And as I understood it, when the frequencies on the planet would get to the point they're at now, and I believe the really, really dark, malevolent beings, they left, I feel, around February 2021.
Yes,
and
they did.
Yeah, you said the same. I saw two other people say exactly the same thing. It was just my intuition. That's just what I got. I felt they're gone. I felt like they're gone. And I think every time it's just return to your heart, and I'm sure a lot of other women or men have had the same experiences. You keep wondering, why do I keep attracting these people who are just not particularly positive people for me, or what I see? And again, I think they got taken over. They got hijacked. They might be a very pleasant person to someone else, but when they come into contact with you, it triggers something gets triggered in them to be really not very pleasant to you. And over time you get used to it, and you see it, and you know what's happening, and you know that they're not ready yet to face their shadow self. So you just have to let them go, because you can see what's going, and you can see that they're programmed with this false light program, but they can't see the false light program inside themselves. They genuinely think that they're a light being. But then I think the giveaway is you look at their life, and they're struggling in so many areas in their life. They're struggling. There's not one bit they can really anchor in and take responsibility for their own life. They're codependent on somebody else. They're in the false light. They're always looking for somebody outside of themselves to hitch onto or to be rescued by. Whereas when you really stand on your own, that's kind of the giveaway, and you should be able to navigate your way through life. Even if you did meet somebody who was the same vibration, you wouldn't be codependent with them.
You have no idea how this makes sense regarding to my experience dealing with people who were in this situation. And I mean, what we can do for these people is give them compassion and love, to help them, to lift them in vibration of compassion, not cast them away. When someone is victim of this programming, and it's because the programming or the AI entity attached, they will keep this person in it, resisting and making this person really aggressive. No, you're wrong, blah blah blah. All you can do is lift them in love, because if you cast this person away, like, ooh, like bullying at school, you have an AI, you have an AI, you're gonna make things worse. You're gonna make things worse, and this person is gonna be even worse.
Mommy, they said I have an AI. It's terrible. Oh, you gotta laugh a little bit.
If you give love, the programming will hate it, will resist. But if you keep on sending compassion, not in a way, oh, I feel so sorry for you. No, I feel sorry, but I lift you, and I wish you that you get out of this, with love. It will. The only thing it will do is to help them, support them, raise their vibration. So yeah, that's what I want to say. So well, girl, we
there's so many people that
go on, Dani.
Quickly, there's so many people that let's say that they're followers of Jesus. No, don't say Jesus, because I'll trigger too many people. Let's say there's like, Mr. Bob. Mr. Bob's this great leader, he's iconic, he's loved, and and then all of a sudden stories start coming out. He's maybe not quite there, and but he's got these followers. Well, the followers are following Mr. Bob, and everything Mr. Bob says is right and true. And how dare you? And then Mr. Bob's followers start attacking aggressively. Oh my God, they may even harm you physically, and this happens across the world.
Yeah.
Mr. Bob's followers, how dare you? Turns out Mr. Bob's a paedophile wanker. Now he's in prison, and all Mr. Bob's followers have condemned and cursed, attacked, taken upon it themselves to defend Mr. Bob because they were so believing, because they needed someone or something to follow. Now that right there, guys, it is exactly right. That's it. It's like you have got to look. It's like this guy had a story. Oh, this guy was like, I hate that guy. Why do you hate him? Because he hurt my friend. And then the friend says, oh, I let that shit go 10 years ago. Why are you still hating that guy? These two right there, those two little suggestions there, if we could just get behind that, understand exactly what it is I just explained, then you free yourself up. Stop following and be a follower because you're following someone and you want to defend them. Don't follow anybody.
Only
Just be kind, be loving, just your heart, your light.
I think the thing is with the global thing that's going on now, and maybe choices that some people have made that we haven't maybe made, but the choices they've made, in a few weeks or months down the line, say there comes something that they can maybe helpfully heal themselves from these bad choices they might have made once, twice, 3 times. The problem is some of them won't reach out for that help. I don't believe, because you would have to go inside yourself and go, oh, you know what, I've made bad choices, really bad ones for this last 2 years, and I have believed something, and now I've got to take the responsibility that I had a bad judgment of error there for a little while. And yes, there is help available maybe to reconcile this, heal it within myself, but I'd have to take responsibility, and then the emotion of shame is going to come up, and guilt of like, how could I have been so deceived? But I think that's what's going to happen for some people. So some will go, oh yes, I realize I've made bad choices, and I want help now. But others might find that really difficult. What do you think?
I think you need to give love to yourself, accept that you made a mistake, acknowledge you made a mistake. We all do, and that's how we learn. And mistakes are teachers. And if you don't feel ashamed, don't feel maybe a little bit sorry for yourself, but in a way that you made a mistake. It's like you're talking to a child. It's all right. You made a bad judgment. It wasn't totally your fault. You've been manipulated, but you've learned. No, it's great. Congratulations, you saw it. Congratulate yourself that you accept you made a mistake and you saw it. Congratulate yourself. Well done yourself. Well done myself. I've seen it. Now I'm going to learn from it and not do it again. I'm so happy. Celebration day. I'd say that. I do that.
Yeah.
A lot of people, may even be a majority, that took a decision. They took it trusting. They took it trusting the people they've been following their whole lives, their governments, their authorities, their medical institutions, their educational institutions. They took it thinking that it was going to be for the benefit of the all. And those that then discover that maybe that wasn't the truth. One lady I had a session with last week, she told me that when she came to take her second dose, she knew that it wasn't right, but she went ahead and did it anyway. But as she was doing it, she imagined that medicine, sorry, something really loud is happening outside my house. She imagined that second medicine was water going into her body. And I think that the more that we use the mind to alchemize whatever medicine is inside of the body, and we really start to trust and stop looking for Jesus or God or whatever the angels to save you, don't go there, go here and go here. Raising up that vibration that nothing dark can live in. Where there is more light, there cannot be dark, there cannot be illness, there cannot be fear. And fear, if there was one emotion on this planet that needs removing, it is fear, because that is how the dark ones manipulate and control the entire planet through fear.
And we are closing back the circle by the story of the city of Troy, who opened their door to let the ruse come in. If they never had opened their trust, the soldiers, the enemy, was powerless. And that circles back to what you said, Dani. If you keep your vibration high and you only rely to yourself, your connection, direct connection, you need no one to connect you to whatever. You don't open your doors, you're safe. What do you think, Andrea? For these maybe last words?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think people, to me, they have to acknowledge their fear inside themselves and turf it out. You know, like if there's fear or whatever myriad of emotions, let's get to the origin of that and just get rid of it. Because otherwise you're just constantly trying to push against denying the fear. Like there is fear, let's find where it comes from, the origin of the fear, turf it out, let it go, and up your vibration goes.
I think, ladies, we went very, very deep into this topic.
Yeah.
And I think I know, I believe, and I know it will help so many people, so many people. So unless you have a last word, something to add, any of you, we're going to close.
I'd like
Dani?
to say that I'm so excited, so excited to bring you girls, my beautiful dear friends, together. I'm so excited for this broadcast. And I also want to say to everyone out there, sending you lots of love. This is your newest, freest ever New Year. And lastly, Liam Neeson.
Call her. And if she doesn't answer, call us.
Yeah.
You know what the funny thing is? I think you dated a woman in my village for a while, about 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, I don't know if he's still with her, but I heard stories that he was picking up children at the local school.
Oh my God.
So that, yeah, so thank you to Elena and Dani for this conversation, which has been amazing. And yeah, I hope it's benefited everybody who listens as well, which I'm sure it will do.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Dani.
Thank you, darling.
It was a great moment, and happy no fear.
Yay!
Happy no fear!
Happy no fear.
Woohoo!